These are two excerpts from Startling Incidents and Experiences in the Christian Life by Enoch E. Byrum. Protection from Plague and Cholera. A few years ago, while I was crossing the Indian Ocean on my way to India, I picked up a newspaper and read a statement that during the previous week, over 34,000 people had died of bubonic plague in the Punjab district in the northern part or the western part of India. As cholera and smallpox also were raging in that country, at first it seemed that my going to Punjab would be a precarious undertaking, but confident that my mission was one directed by the Lord, I had no feeling of anxiety concerning my safety. Like a flash came the words of Psalms 91, verse 10, "There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling." Several weeks later, as we journeyed to that plague-stricken district, we realized the assurance and the fulfillment of that promise. Along the way, as we came to small villages where the plague had made its appearance, the natives fleeing from its ravages crowded into our train with their luggage. Having been exposed to the disease, they were liable to be attacked by it while on the train, even in our crowded coach. A brother told me that on another train, the people were thrown out along the way as fast as they died. No one on our train was attacked, nor in any dwelling where we stopped while in that district. At one place in Calcutta, where we spent a few weeks, soon after we left, 2 or 3 persons contracted the disease and one of them died. Under such circumstances, we can truly say with the psalmist, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Train wrecked. For many years, I have been accustomed, when boarding a train, to breathe a prayer for protection, asking the Lord to give me a safe journey. During 25 years of travel in many countries, I have never been injured on the railways nor witnessed a serious train wreck, although whole trains have been completely wrecked before me and behind me. Once, while traveling in Ohio, I arrived at Bradford Junction at 9 p.m., at which place I was to change cars. A train on the other road was due to leave in 15 minutes, but the agent advised me to wait an hour and take the fast train. Upon entering the train at 10 o'clock, I asked the Lord to give us a safe journey. As soon as the conductor took my ticket, I lay down in the seat and soon fell asleep. A little later, when we were about 7 miles beyond Piqua, a rail broke, throwing the engine and all the cars in front of the one I occupied into a ditch. Our coach came within about 2 or 3 feet of the broken rail and stopped. The engineer blew the signal whistle and the wrecking train came and took our car to Piqua and then returned to the scene of the wreck. During all this time I was sleeping and knew nothing about what had happened. About 1 o'clock in the morning, I was awakened by the loud talking and laughing of the passengers. After listening for a while to their many expressions about the wreck, I crossed the aisle and sat down near a gentleman and asked, "Where was the wreck?" He burst into laughter and said, "It never waked you up?" I told him that I had asked the good Lord to give me a safe journey, to which he replied, "He surely did give you a safe journey." Many times have I thought of an expression made by an older brother when I was but a child. While talking about a devout minister of his acquaintance, he said, "I always like to ride on the same train with that minister, for he always prays for safety on entering the car. I always feel secure, knowing that the Lord will not permit any evil to befall the train while that man of God is on board. His presence is an assurance of safety." The expression became so stamped upon my mind that when I began to travel, I thought of this man and concluded that as God is no respecter of persons, he will help all those who put their trust in him. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Psalms 91:11. Received help in time of need. A minister who had become involved in debt had given his note to cover the indebtedness. This note would soon become due, and he knew of no way by which he would be able to make the payment. It became quite a burden to him and a source of considerable uneasiness. One day, during a series of meetings, he decided to take the matter more earnestly to the Lord in prayer between the morning service and the service to be held in the afternoon, as the time had come that something must be done in order to satisfy the demand. In relating the circumstance to me afterward, he said that he and his son walked silently to a field of corn. As they entered the field, one of them went in one direction and the other in another direction, so that they could be alone in fervent prayer. After the father had spent some time in earnest prayer, telling the Lord all about the circumstances and imploring his help in this time of need, he received an assurance that all would be well, and he arose to his feet, feeling that the Lord would make a way for him to adjust matters satisfactorily. When he came to the other side of the field, he met his son, who said to him, "Father, I believe that you will receive the money in time to make the payment." "Why do you think so, my son?" the father replied. "Because while in prayer I received such an assurance that all was well and that the Lord would open the way before us." Then the father told his own experience in prayer. The two went from their place of prayer confident that the Lord had heard and answered their petitions. When they came to the place of meeting, where the people were assembled for the next service, a lady came to the minister and said, "I have felt impressed to let you have a certain amount of money, and I can lend it to you if you need it." It happened to be exactly the amount for which the minister and his son had been praying. She said, "You may give me a note for this amount payable in 6 months. The minister thanked the lady, took the money, and paid his indebtedness in full. Just before expiration of the 6 months for which the last note had been given, the lady called on him and said, "At the time that I was led to let you have that money, the Lord impressed me to give it to you as a donation. But as my friends were very much opposed to my making a donation for that purpose, I lent you the money and took your note. I have canceled it, and now present to you the canceled note." Help in selling books. One cold winter night, a brother was traveling by train in Idaho. He had a large satchel filled with religious books and tracts. Late at night, he arrived at a station where he had to change cars. The depot was well crowded with people. There was nothing special about their appearance that would indicate that they were interested in religious literature. This brother had spent much time in canvassing and selling religious literature, and he was generally successful wherever he went. But the secret of his success lay in the fact that he sought help from the Lord in all his undertakings. When entering a community, he always prayed that he might have divine help in disposing of his literature. Upon this particular night, he was much in need of money with which to pay his current expenses, which had to be met, and, moreover, he had a great desire to furnish the people with reading that would help those in need of spiritual help and instruct them in the Word of God. In fact, his situation was such that something had to be done. He felt that he must sell the books in order to complete his journey. After silently communing with the Lord for wisdom and divine guidance, he opened his satchel and, taking out a small bundle of tracts and advertisements of his books, he circulated them among the people in the room. Then he closed his satchel and went outside. Standing against the end of the building where the cold winter wind could not strike him, he prayed earnestly for the Lord to get those people interested in the tracts. And after waiting about 15 minutes, he returned, believing that the Lord would grant him wisdom to present the books in the proper manner. Glancing about the room, he saw that some had gathered in groups and were already discussing the contents of the tracts. He selected one who was apparently a leader among them, and approaching him very courteously, called attention to one of his books on the same subject that they were discussing among themselves. He was soon able to induce this leader to purchase a copy. Then others came flocking around for copies of the books, and they bought every copy. Thus, not only did the brother procure the amount of money he needed, but also he interested every person in that crowded room in such a manner that they had a desire not only to read his books, but to further interest themselves in the Word of God and the welfare of their souls.